Pete Bukowski of The Leap and Locked On Packers. What up, man?
I like that. I like that applause. Let's go.
Live studio audience, yeah.
We got a live show here for you guys. First and foremost, man, how we looking on that bet we made last time you were on the show? Checking out those stats a little, or
wait, remind me what it was.
Wow. Ooh, this is awkward.
I don't remember the exact details.
Jersey bets for our sons. All-purpose yard.
I remember that, but what was there was like an advanced metrics bet, right?
Yeah, all-purpose yards. And it was J-Mo versus Christian Watson. What's the update on your J-Mo take, and how you feeling about the bet? You sweating it?
Yeah, it's not great right now for sure. The emergence of Jameson Williams has been a huge thing for the Bears. I mean the Bears, the Lions. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys this, right? Like it is rare, I think, that we see a player who comes in with all the fanfare that he did coming off the injury, and then to really not perform, frankly, at all because of injury, because of suspension, to get very limited reps, and then in year 3 have this level of breakout. I think having Ben Johnson is a big part of that. They're able to do some different things with him. They've never had a piece like this in this offense. He's leveled them up, and that's a scary thing for the Packers, for the Vikings, for the Bears, for the Eagles, for all the teams in the NFC that are trying to take down this Lions team. For all the differences from that last matchup in Green Bay in that monsoon, Jameson Williams not being in that game and playing now might be the biggest one. That being said, the Christian Watson piece of this, I think he's going to be a big factor in what the Packers want to do in this game. The last time we saw Christian Watson in Detroit, they were opening the game with a shot call down the field. He makes the play. He ends up catching the game-sealing touchdown in that game. They really like Christian Watson against man coverage, and he's been one of the more productive per route run man coverage beaters in the NFL since he's been in the league. So a really interesting matchup of styles. Terran Arnold, Carlton Davis, those guys are want to get physical. Are you comfortable getting physical with him, knowing he can run by you in most cases? If you're going to play single high, man-free kind of man coverage, I mean, that's a tough way to live, but the Packers are going to have to block it up. Jordan Love is going to have to make deep shots, and that's going to be a big piece of ultimately who wins this game.
Speaking of, covering over the top, and Christian Watson and Jameson Williams, they both attack the opposing defense down the field and with deep throws. These two teams probably have the two best guys in the NFL when it comes to taking that off the board when you look at Xavier McKinney and Kirby Joseph. What have you seen from your side first with Xavier McKinney, and then what have you seen out of Kirby Joseph?
I mean, it is hard to overstate in the safety room for the Green Bay Packers last year compared to this year.
Yeah.
Going from the conglomeration of Darnell Savage and Rudy Ford and Jonathan Owens and guy they pick up off the street that week because they need someone to play, to Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard. It is I can't remember the Packers ever upgrading any position in one offseason the way that the Packers did this most recent offseason with that safety position. So Xavier McKinney said this 2 weeks ago. He's like, teams are just not trying us anymore down the field because I'm here. And that's real. I mean, that's not just a guy blowing smoke. That's real. We saw it early in the season. Teams, when they played a lot of this, is a more single high coverage than Joe Barry wanted to play. And so we've seen that they've been one of the best middle of the field defenses in the league this season. The numbers have fallen a bit because they gave up some garbage yards to the Dolphins last week, but they're still third in the NFL in DVOA defending the deep ball. Teams are just not trying it. And it's not something really that the Lions major in. Like they're not going to be like, hey, let's one-on-one on the outside, Jared Goff, 7-step drop and let's heave one. Like that's just not the way they play. When they take their deep shots, it's going to be off play action. It's going to be off like that mesh return that they ran with that against the Bears, where it looks like Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to run the crosser on mesh, and then he goes to the corner and it's like he's wide ass open and it's like, oh my God. That's the way that they tend to take their deep shots. And then it's also Jameson Williams, those deep posts where you clear out the middle of the field and that safety comes and cuts the crosser. You get the big post in behind. if you're going to take just those rail deep shots down the sidelines, it has to be with Jameson Williams because they don't have anyone else who can do something like that. And so the Packers are going to have to be aware of that. Jair Alexander not going to play in this game, which means it's Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine, Eric Stokes rotation on the other side, Javon Bullard in the slot. That's a tough place for this Packers team to be. But that was also what happened on that rainy Sunday night. So I'm interested to see how the Lions decide to attack this Packers defense, because I have to assume it will be differently with Jameson Williams out there.
Speaking of Packers defense, I want to ask, because we're out, our starting left tackle, Taylor Decker, is that Van Ness's side of the ball, or do you see Rashawn Gary there? And where's Van Ness?
Well, they've been moving Rashawn Gary around. And
Okay.
so that's a big part of this. And they found, it's interesting, after they traded Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness since then has been, I believe, 11th in pass rush win rate. That's always a tough one to say.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
And so that's been a huge factor in the game. Forced the fumble last week, got a sack last week, or I guess the fumble was 2 weeks ago, on a stack and retrace, working back down to the quarterback. Van Ness is really coming on, and it's going to be power rush central on that side of the field, whether it's Rashawn Gary, whether it's Kingsley Enagbare, who's a nice rotation piece for the Packers, whether it's Lucas Van Ness. And collapsing the pocket with 4 is so essential against Jared Goff. The Packers didn't do that much and Joe Barry didn't do much to try and pressure Goff, to go out of his way to pressure Goff. It was, we're going to rush 4, we're going to make him read everything out, play solid zone coverage, and force him to fit balls into windows where we've got guys who can get the hand on it, get in the passing lanes, all those things. I think that's going to continue to be the thing. The question is going to be, can you get pressure with 4? With Decker out, I think you will see a heavy dose of Rashawn Gary against the backup left tackle. And that is certainly on the backside going to be a matchup to watch. Remember the last time these two teams got together, Rashawn Gary wrecked that game. And he was excellent. I don't recall now if Taylor Decker played in that game. My memory is that he didn't.
I think he
but
did,
even if he
but
did,
our guards were out, and that's where.
And so yeah, I remember now they were actually lining Rashawn Gary up in the B gap a lot.
Yeah.
To go against those guards rushing from the inside. You know, Jeff Hafley not doing that as much this year, but could be something that they go to. They have been using a NASCAR package where it's like, let's just get 4 pass rushers on the field. I'm not sure the Lions have 4 pass rushers to put on the field in this game, which will be an interesting wrinkle here. And I say that both these teams, it is a bummer that half the Lions defense is out, and several key players, including Taylor Decker on offense, and the Packers, no Jair Alexander, obviously their number 1 corner, no Romeo Doubs, who's been their most trusted receiver from Jordan Love, I'll say. And then no Adrian Cooper, the second-round linebacker, who has really been a dynamic player. If you're going to defend the middle of the field against Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, he would have been a really nice player to have. If you're going to send some extra pressure against Jared Goff, he would have been a really nice player to have, not having a full complement of guys. I hope we get this matchup again in the postseason so that we can see a healthier version of these two teams. I understand some of the IR guys for Detroit are just not coming back. But I would like to see this matchup again in the postseason when everyone has their guys.
And speaking of some of the guys that you guys do have that have been chirping a little bit in the locker room and even in the media, you see Xavier McKinney said he's not worried about Amon-Ra St. Brown. You see Tucker Kraft going out there saying,
well, okay, but let me
Joseph.
I quote tweeted our boy here because you put that out. And
gotta hit that follow button, too.
I got to talk trash about it. But I genuinely don't think what Xavier McKinney meant when he said we're not worried about him. I don't think he meant we are not worried about him as a football player. What he meant was, because he was asked specifically, what do you think of the t-shirt? How does that affect you guys?
Yeah, it was a little bit out of context.
What he was saying was, we're not worried about him, as if to say, we don't care about him talking trash. It's not about that. We're focused on the game. That was essentially the context of the quote. So, but it gave me an opportunity to point out that in terms of yards per target, the Packers are the 20th most productive team that Amon-Ra St. Brown has faced in his career. He averages a shade over 60 yards a game. he has not been a huge factor in these games. In terms of volume, obviously the touchdown on 4th down in the last game was a big play in that game.
I mean,
but has not been someone like Justin Jefferson has absolutely murdered the Green Bay Packers. That has not been the case for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think that's fair to point out. Like, the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, the numbers also say that he averages 6 catches a game. Like, you get that guy 6 catches a game against the Packers. In his
6
career.
catches for 60 yards. I mean, that's a nice day for a middling tight end. Like, that's not exactly setting the world on fire.
10 yards a catch. That's a first down every time you throw him the ball. I think that's pretty.
I mean, yeah, but like again, doesn't Sam Laporta average like 13 yards a catch for his career? Like that. Those are Jarvis Landry numbers. That's PPR stuff. Like I'm not worried about that. That's how he gets 130 catches in a season, because they're all 3 yards down the field and wide ass open, and it's great. By the way, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, I think he's a really good player, but
it's something your guys' defense needs to be worried about. Is the rushing attack of David Montgomery.
Yeah, dude. Tucker Kraft was talking too now.
Yeah, Tucker Kraft talks too.
Well, okay.
Kirby Joseph. He didn't go out and call him dirty.
It wasn't egregious.
He didn't call him dirty. I appreciated that. But he kind of hinted
Tuck
at
is a
it.
psycho. I need to tell you about Tucker Kraft.
Okay.
This is a guy who he comes from the Dakotas. He is from a small town, 500 people. I think all 500 of them were at his draft party.
Oh, Jesus.
He has this charity that supports Native youth. He's a really awesome, sweet guy off the field. On the field, this guy is a psychopath, an absolute freaking psycho. He admitted to the media that when he talks trash to opponents, when he blocks them, he said he has told defenders things like, "I'm going to burn down your childhood home." Like, he is a psychopath on the field. On the field.
Yeah.
Again, off the field, he is the nicest guy. But on the
that.
field, you just don't want to mess with him. And what he said was that the Lions have had some borderline hits. Brian Branch got ejected from the last matchup.
Soft.
I didn't think the hit, by the way, in the Chicago game was dirty at all. I thought that was totally fine. The one on Caleb going out of bounds, I had no problem with that hit at all. But he has said that Kirby Joseph has made some borderline plays, and if he gets the chance, he's going to put hands on him. And he meant in a blocking sense, like, I'm going to put that guy on the ground.
He did.
And like, I don't know about you guys, I love that. Like, from a football standpoint, like, hey, on the field, we'll see you on the field. None of this like, we'll see you at the bus, because you guys know and I know that's not happening.
No.
But on the field,
and
Kirby pieced him up anyway.
right?
You saw the league neighbors got some.
So
it'll be exciting
that'll
too,
be a fun
because we
matchup.
finally have a rivalry.
Become one of the best tight ends in the league.
What'd you say?
I was just saying that it's going to be a really fun matchup, because Tucker Kraft is becoming one of the most dynamic tight ends in the league. After the catch, he's averaging basically you're speaking of a first down. Tucker Kraft is averaging 9.8 yards after the catch per catch. So that's a first down once he catches it every single time. And against the Dolphins, the Dolphins were saying, we're gonna take the top, we're gonna put a roof on your offense. You're not gonna get anything deep. And it was just like, here's a 3-yard pass to Tucker Kraft on a little check release, and he turned it into 12 like regularly.
That's going to be a fun
that I think
matchup
is going to be something that the Lions are going to have to account for in this game, because Jordan Love, since he got back from being healthy, back from the bye week, he's been playing much smarter with the football, much safer with the football, and he's taking those checkdowns. Yep, just here, Tucker Kraft. Oh, Josh Jacobs go snatch someone ankles in the open field. Like, he's playing a much smarter brand of football. And you hope for the Packers that in the dome, they won't have 8 drops, 4 on 4th down or 3rd down, like they did in the last matchup, including Dontavian Wicks in the end zone. That ends up taking points off the board, because the next play's 4th and 1, they don't get it. So that's a 7-point swing in a 10-point game. That's a big deal. They had a drop on 3rd down on the first drive of the game. They kick a field goal. That's a 4-point game, or 4-point swing. So that's 11 points on drops in the red zone in a game they lost by 10. So I think that, Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs underneath, that's going to be a big part of what the Packers try and do here. And the Lions have been really good against that stuff, but that was with
key guys,
Alex Anzalone, with Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, with guys that are not going to be out there. It's going to be Quan Alexander and
Jack Campbell.
Jamal
Jack
Adams, ghost of Jamal
Jack
Adams.
Campbell's been the best
Like,
linebacker on
that's
this team
tough.
all year, and he's going to be out there still. So that's what I was going to say. That is something he'll match that energy of Tucker Kraft. You want to talk about corn-fed psychopath? That Jack Campbell fits that description too. So that's going to be fun. You see Tucker Kraft get it out in the flat. You got, I call him the meat missile, coming down ready to go at it. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch.
Some white on white
crime.
crime.
Bit of pause for sure.
The meat missile. Jeez,
Yeah.
That's his thing.
Coined. It stuck, you know.
It did not stick. You're the only one who calls him that.
I mean, it's probably sticky. Let's be honest.
That's true. That is true. But what I was going to ask you before we got into the Tucker Kraft stuff, one thing that this defense for the Green Bay Packers has to worry about is the rushing attack of the Detroit Lions. They couldn't stop DeAndre Swift from going over 100 yards against them. Do you have faith that they're going to slow down Sonic and Knuckles? Which is a cool nickname, by the way, better than Meat Missile.
It is unfortunately, it's a very cool nickname.
Yeah.
So against the Packers the last time, if you take out the Jared Goff kneel downs, the Packers allowed 4.3 yards per carry against David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think that we remember that game a little differently from a run defense standpoint because of the 4th and 1 touchdown that, at least at the time, felt like it sealed the game, right? But that really wasn't the case. And even in the first half, I think they had like 17 rushes for 96 yards or something. Like, it was a nice per carry average, but it wasn't like they were like, they've mashed teams this year at times. There have been games when they've averaged like 8 yards a carry, and that's not what they did. The Packers have been a pretty solid run defense this year, in part because they play much more single high than they did last year. Against two high, they have not done well. And stopping the run from a two high shell. It's been all when they were in that single high shell. And so if Jameson Williams, and I think this is going to be something that they're going to have to see early, Detroit, can you one-on-one down the field? Can you handle Jameson Williams? And if you're going to gear up to stop the run, can Jared Goff find him down the field? We know Ben Johnson is fully ready to say, here's 35 runs in this game. And if you're the Packers, you have to be ready to say, okay, we'll play with that. We'll play the style that you want. And that fits, Eric Wilson, Isaiah McDuffie. Quay Walker is playing the best football of his career right now, playing very decisively coming downhill.
If he doesn't push a Stafford, I'm sure he'll have a good game.
Say again?
I said if he doesn't push a Stafford, I'm sure he'll have a good game out there.
Well, look, or a referee. He's had some issues before with that. But you hope that he's, apparently he's done, some meditation work. He's apparently, growing up right in front of our eyes, which, he's, 22-year-old. I'm sure some of us have done some things we wish we didn't when we were 22, especially in the heat of, a game like that. Hell, I probably did it playing, pickup basketball, but, and I wasn't getting paid millions of dollars for that. I was just mad at someone for being a jerk. So, it's going to be tough to stop this run game, but it is imperative. If you let the Lions just do whatever they want and dictate terms, you're pretty much toast. Unless you want to try and win a shootout with this team, and this is the best or second best offense in the league right now, certainly the best offense in the NFC. So the Packers want to keep this in a game where they don't have to score 35. But I do think the Packers are willing and ready to say, hey, look, if this has to be a 35-31 kind of game, bring it on. Let's go. I mean, I think the more possessions that these two teams have, the more I think the Packers' advantage on offense against a really banged-up Lions defense shows up. If this is one of those like 8 possession each games, I think that's where the variance could be problematic for either team, frankly, because then you have to be hyper-efficient with your drives. And the Lions have been hyper-efficient this season. But if you're the Packers, again, you want to make sure, and that's why I think this is a big game for the Packers in terms of personnel. 2 running backs on the field, 2 tight ends on the field, put all those backup linebackers on the field and make them play, make them cover in pass coverage, make them tackle Tucker Kraft in space, tackle Josh Jacobs in space. If you're going to play zone coverage, have to run side to side with Jaden Reed in the horizontal run game. Read out all the eye candy that Matt LaFleur is going to throw at you, the orbit motion, the jet return motion, the fake pulling guard to run a reverse the other way, or the fake pulling guard to a play action boot. Like they love to do stuff like that. And Matt LaFleur is one of the best in the game at creating those opportunities. So it's going to be tough, I think, for those linebackers. Matt LaFleur is going to see to that. And that to me is the matchup for the Packers that I want to see the most is how does Detroit's base defense handle Green Bay's offense when they're in those big personnel? And can the Packers get Christian Watson one-on-one with Carlton Davis down the sideline? Can they get Jaden Reed matched up on a linebacker in zone coverage? Can they create some of those big plays when you're in that heavy personnel? Can you get some mismatches against a linebacker when you're getting a backup linebacker in man coverage against Tucker Kraft? The Lions love to disguise coverages, especially in the red zone. The Packers have had answers. And so I think that this is going to be a fascinating cat and mouse game. I think this is the kind of game that if you're Jordan Love, you can announce your status as a MVP creeper. If you're Matt LaFleur, you go, hey, don't forget about me for coach of the year, all those things. But it's also, if the Packers want to have any hope to win the NFC North, this is the game. Yeah. If you don't win this game, your chances of winning the NFC North are basically nada. And so this is an enormous game. And I will tell you guys, this has been all business for Green Bay this week. Jordan Love has been curt in the locker room. They are locked in. They are focused on what they are doing. They are pissed off. And this happened last year. The Packers lost to the Vikings and they lost to the Lions early in the season in an embarrassing fashion. And they came back in each game and controlled both of those games from start to finish. And I think that is a credit to the Packers young team. You wish that they didn't have to learn their lesson. But I also think it's a credit to Matt LaFleur. Once he sees what you want to do to him once in a season with your personnel, he's going to find ways to exploit it a second time. And I think that's what you're going to ultimately see on Thursday night, because I think the Packers are going to win.
I'm up against it because we got to go to break, and I do appreciate you joining us. Just one more time, you mind re-ranking these weapons to the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers?
I think my thought would be I probably would not change that much other than Jameson Williams, because I think obviously he has really elevated himself. So I would say the thing is Sam Laporta has not had the year that I think that was expected of him. And so that makes it tough. I think it's probably the case that the two best weapons on either team combined are Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think after that, that's when it starts to get interesting, because I frankly personally would rather have Jaden Reed than Jameson Williams.
I'm not mad.
Now that that's fine. After that, I think those two are close. After that, I think Jacobs, Kraft, Watson would be probably the next guys, and then David Montgomery. You know how I feel about David Montgomery. But and then who am I missing? They haven't. Khalif Raymond's hurt, so that's tough.
Tim Patrick.
I mean, come on. He's a very nice sixth receiver on a good team. And if Khalif Raymond were healthy, he wouldn't even be out there. So look, these are two very good teams, very talented teams. I've never disputed and will never dispute until it changes that they had the higher end talent. Detroit does. I think the Packers continue to have the deeper group, and that we'll see on Sunday on Thursday how they match up, because I do hope this is one of those games we get 3 times this year, and I hope that in the playoffs we get a chance to see both of them at more full strength.
I don't want to see you guys in the playoffs.
Do not want to see you in the playoffs.
Yeah. Good day, sir.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Peter. Thank you, man. Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you, brother.
See you later, man.